This year will be a good year. We will go to much higher valuations. And then after we've rolled the debt, we tend to tighten liquidity because the inflation pressures have come back somewhat. That tends to draw down the markets. We kind of reset again before we start this cycle all over again.
History is repeating, at least according to global macro investor Raoul. 2025 will make millionaires. Watch today's whole video. You and I know Raoul for his amazing Bitcoin and Solana predictions in the bear market. He told us about Bitcoin here. He told us about Solana here. A lot has changed. Raoul has just updated his 2025 crypto prediction based on global liquidity cycles. In this video, he reveals his bear case, base case, and bull case. Smash the like button, post this video on social media so more people know about this. Before we get into crypto, let's first talk about traditional markets and the global liquidity cycle in general. Bitcoin, because of BlackRock and Wall Street, follows the stock market now. If that's the case, what's your stock market predictions this year? This will inform his Bitcoin prediction because all of this is based off of global liquidity. You can tell the host recognizes that Raoul has been right before.
I want to get your views on the S&P and the NASDAQ now. We've had two incredible years, 23 and 24. S&P and NASDAQ up 25 to 30% both years. I read in one of your letters, you had an incredible 2024, up 150%, one of your best years ever. I'm going to have to give you some of my money. But what are your thoughts? Do you think we can have a third incredible year in the S&P?
I'll use the NASDAQ as the best example. 97.5% of the entire trend of the NASDAQ is driven by liquidity. So it's a 97.5% correlation. So really what is driving equity markets is the action of the Federal Reserve plus the Treasury. And that's the Treasury General Account, that is the reverse repo, that is the balance sheet. And then in addition, it's what the global governments are doing. So global liquidity is the big driver of everything. So if we know that there is, 8 trillion or 10 trillion of debt to roll this year, the bond market's already struggling, they need liquidity. Well, the probabilistic outcome is we're going to get a lot of liquidity. Trump also likes high asset prices. So the chances of this being another strong year for equities is high. It will be probably volatile, probably more volatile than last year was. But I don't see a world in which it won't if the government rolls its debt, which it has to do. And it's the same for the Europeans, it's the same for the Chinese, it's the same for the Japanese. Everyone's got the same thing to do. And to do that, they inject liquidity.
So it goes back to the point I made earlier. He's going to do anything and everything he can to keep the economy going, keep the markets going.
Yeah. Number one, roll the debt. That's the single most important thing, because if you blow up your entire bond markets, that's the end of the game. So rule number one, roll your debt. In doing that, you have to add liquidity, and that's going to drive asset prices. So it's going to make him look good.
So global liquidity is about to explode. Combine that with the Trump administration is now referring to Bitcoin as a store of value. They say a strategic Bitcoin reserve is one of the first things on the table.
The feasibility of a Bitcoin reserve, you said that's being studied. It's one of the first things that's on the table here. What goes into that process?
The item that President Trump asked our working group on digital assets to study is whether it's feasible to create either a Bitcoin reserve or some sort of digital asset stockpile. And so we're going to be looking at that question. We haven't committed yet to doing it, but it's one of the first things we're going to be looking at.
We now know it has been confirmed 100% yes, a Bitcoin crypto stablecoin and digital asset strategy is unbelievably important for the Trump administration to accomplish. Here's why.
David, recast for us, if you will, the value of Bitcoin specifically, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology in general. What do you see as the real value and the reason why the United States government should be paying so much attention to it?
Well, I think there's a few different aspects here when you're talking about digital aspects. So first of all, you got Bitcoin. It was the first digital currency, and it's the original. It's the strongest one. In the parlance of the industry, it's the most lindy, meaning it's been around for over a dozen years now. No one's ever hacked it. No one's ever cracked the security around it. And so it is an excellent store of value. So that would be point number one. Bitcoin is run on, as you know, a blockchain. It's basically a distributed ledger, which is essentially a form of decentralized computing. And that platform can be used to create a lot of other types of products. And so that would be sort of technology area number two, is all the innovation that can be built on top of blockchains. And then I would say a third area that's very interesting is stablecoins. And this is an area that has already taken off, but mostly offshore. We want to bring that innovation onshore. We want to enable legislation to allow the issuance of stablecoins in the United States. And I think the power of stablecoins is that it could extend the dollar's dominance internationally, extend it online, digitally, and create potentially trillions of dollars of new demand for our U.S. treasuries, which could help support our debt and bring down long-term interest rates. So I think these are all three very exciting areas of digital asset technology.
And even more significant, we could hear final answers on this in the next 6 months.
You did talk about the need for this clear regulatory framework. How quickly can you stand this up?
Well, I was on the Hill today meeting with the leaders of our House and Senate committees for banking and for finance, and they are very committed to moving legislation through the House and the Senate this year in order to provide that clear regulatory framework that the digital assets ecosystem needs to sustain innovation in the United States. And so those chairmen, I think, are very committed. President Trump is committed, and I think we can do something here. But as you know, moving legislation through Congress takes time. But I think this is something we could do in the next 6 months.
So, global liquidity explosion, booming stock market, Trump administration paving the way for digital assets in the U.S. With all that being said, listen to billionaire Banana Zone investor Raoul Pal give his bear, base, and bull case for Bitcoin in 2025. Do you agree with him?
Normally in these presidential election cycle years, the business cycle peaks towards the end of the year. So Bitcoin had a very complicated 2021, but what we're doing now looks very similar to the 2017 post-election for Trump. And what we saw then was ongoing injections of liquidity. We started the year with a sharp 30% correction or 25% correction, the sort of thing we're getting now. And then liquidity just came all year. And it wasn't actually massively put in by the US. It was actually China last time. And I think we might see that again this time, where China is going to play an important role in global liquidity. So I think it's going to be a much stronger year than people expect. People have a lot of PTSD from 2021, where it peaked early, then collapsed, then went back up again, then collapsed. I think it's going to look more like we saw in 2013, 2017. So yes, I remain very bullish for this year on all risk assets.
So if I use similar numbers, let's just use round numbers. It's at 100,000. You see it pulling back 25% to 75, and then take off.
Probably
again.
not even. I don't think it goes down 25% because there's ETFs and there's the market is more mature. So let's say let's say 90,000. So it goes from 100 and where did it get to? 110 down to 90,000. Okay, that seems about right. So not far from where we are now. And then it finishes the year in a worst case scenario. I think it's like 200, 250. In a base case scenario, it's kind of 350. And in a blow off top cycle like 2017, back end of the year, could go north of 500,000.
And it's not just Bitcoin anymore. It's crypto, baby. Solana just had its best quarter yet. Chain GDP up 213%. Van Eck is predicting Solana hits $520 this year. We're seeing so many people come around. Mike Novogratz now says he was wrong about Cardano. He says he was wrong about XRP. He says altcoins are about to enter a paradigm shift.
The reality for all crypto ecosystems is narrative brings an enthusiasm, and enthusiasm creates value. And why smaller ecosystems persist is because they have some little narrative that keeps their participants engaged. And you look at something, I always pick on Cardano, and mostly I get yelled at. But I was wrong. I was wrong in that I thought lots of these ecosystems would go away. And they didn't. And I have a very different view on this now. Like, it's the libertarian view. If people want to be part of the XRP army, let them. That's their decision. And XRP has a narrative, and they like it. It's, in some ways, all of these ecosystems have a little bit of store of value in them. People are storing their value there. And the narrative that gets people there is often not store of value, right? Most of the market cap of Ethereum right now is store of value, but what got people there is a narrative about this is going to be Web3.
And with MicroStrategy rebranding to just strategy, we really are in a new paradigm. If you're interested in making money in crypto, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, as people with notifications on are the first to comment, and then their comments rise to the top. Let's continue this conversation in the comments. I'll see you tomorrow with another daily crypto video.